Hey, what's up guys? Psynaps here. In this video, I invited a panel of streamers, both partnered and non-partnered. This is one talk show video in a multi-video series to address the most important questions asked by streamers. If you find these videos useful, please subscribe to the channel, please like, and let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure you check the description for more links and tips for streamers. In this video, we're going to talk about a dual PC or multi-PC stream setup. It turns out that using more than one PC can help to improve your game performance and stream quality. Now, why do people want to use splitters? Like, why not just go direct input into the capture card that's on the encoding computer?
So the reason these are included in all these setups is because most people add the splitters and an HDMI switch for, like he was saying, a console as well. So they'll have a PS4 and Xbox, you know, a computer, and they can just switch on the HDMI switch through the splitter, you know, and then they'll get a different source input to the single capture card as opposed to having like 6 capture cards.
It's the cheap way to get multiple HDMI inputs instead of spending, because otherwise you got to buy like a black magic switcher, you know, and that thing's like $1,000.
Could you like put a bunch of capture cards in one computer potentially if you have the PCI slots to do so?
You can,
Sure,
you can.
That'd be pretty sick.
I know Cody, for example, has 3 capture cards in his setup. He's got one for like a GoPro camera, he's got one for his console, and then one for his main gaming rig.
Yep. I mean, look, that's the optimal thing, but a lot of times we have a budget, and the thing about hardware is it's not cheap. In fact, it's pretty expensive. Best case scenario, you have a webcam, you have a console, and you have a PC. 3 capture cards. I think that would probably be the best because that means you can have all 3 of them running and each one has its dedicated capture card, which is probably overkill. But we try to cut corners, and I think that's what's going on with Gigacel's thing. I think that I think it can work the way you're doing it because so many people do it that way. I don't know the magic trick DJ knows. I think DJ's advice is probably something to try. And then, you know, the way I have my RTMP setup, again, is even saving even more money. So we try to cut corners and try to keep performance high. And we got to stick within the reason of a reasonable budget. Because really, I think what people want to spend their most money on is the graphics card and the CPU. So we can get in there and own noobs, with high performance.
When I found out about Nginx RTMP last year, I was blown away. I was like, I couldn't believe that you could just stream. Like, it's like having a capture card on another computer, like in your house, and you can literally you can stream to that machine, and it encodes, and you don't have to pay for a capture card. And once I figured that out, I was mind blown. And that's
is there no quality loss?
It's lossless. It's encoded, so there is no noticeable loss in quality, not any that you're going to notice. And listen, when I tell you that, I'm not bullshitting you. I'm the kind of guy who zooms in to every single pixel. I know exactly how much quality loss there is or there isn't. And I was really impressed with it. The reason that I added it to my workflow was that there's something you can do to make the quality loss very minimal and to reduce your CPU load so that basically you can be using no CPU almost and sending a very high quality, huge data dump to your encoder machine and then let the encoder machine do all the work. The highest quality option is still going to be the capture card, a dedicated capture card, because when you do the capture card, you're basically feeding an HDMI signal in, and that's the rawest high quality dump that you can send to your encoder machine. So that's like the first thing. It's not encoded, right? We're not, when I say capture card, I don't mean we're encoding it and then using the encode. No, you're using the source, the HDMI source that comes into that card. And so that's theoretically always going to be the best quality option. So why would you want to, in that case, why would you want to use the RTMP server? The reason for me, I think, is because you can add so many sources, all right? Not just one computer, but now you can add 2. Now you can add that along with a cell phone for the mobile stream and a music computer and whatever you want. If you have a gaming house, every computer can be streaming to the main system, and it's a high quality stream. There's no noticeable difference in quality because once it gets to Twitch, I mean, hey, that's where the real compression happens, and you can't get around that. Just like YouTube. You can upload the biggest, rawest, most highest quality video to YouTube, and YouTube is still going to rape it. and mess up all the fine details.
Can I throw out a little scenario? Say that you had like a gaming
Go
house
for it.
with like 5 Twitch people, and they all lived in this house. You could. So what you're telling me is you could build a pretty beast, like maybe use like an Xeon processor, something relatively like maybe $4,000. Like that new Xeon processor that Linus Tech Tips just did a video on. You could buy something like that.
Oh, that's sweet.
And then you could have like everybody in the whole house could just stream to this server, and you could set up like say that you had like VMs set up for each streamer. You could just have everybody, hey, stream here, and then you dedicate those quarters. That's crazy.
But you don't. Yeah, you don't need a VM. You don't even need a VM. You only need one VM on the encoding computer, and that encoding computer can receive all the RTMP streams. So on the client computer, like for me, and if I was in a gaming house scenario, let's say that all of you guys were here, you guys would just stream to the encoding computer just like you stream to Twitch. You would just change the Twitch settings to the RTMP server, and then you would jack up your bit rate to a high bit rate. You could even use your graphics card for encoding so that your CPU wouldn't be used because GPU encoding only works at high bit rates anyway. And then you can send that. Everybody could be sending their streams to the encoding computer, and the only limitation is bandwidth. The only limitation is gigabit, and we can fix that. We can just dump a whole bunch of Cat 6. Yeah, but everybody has a gigabit card anyway, built in. They're all built into motherboards anyway. You send your streams over there, and the encoding computer. We could open up OBS on the encoding computer or Wirecast or whatever, and I could switch between monitors. I could switch, just do picture in picture, or just however you want, or just one screen at a time. Zoom in on one, go to the other, and that's if we wanted to stream like everybody at once. But if you guys wanted each of your individual streams to be going out at the gamer house, you could also have that RTMP server bounce out your server. So each of you has a special key, and when that key comes into the server bounces out to Twitch. So you could all be streaming to Twitch through the server.
So let me ask you a question. So
sure,
it's in the scripting. So because when I connect to my server in the basement, I just use the default port. I think it's like 8080 or something. So on the scripting, you could just give it for every person that was streaming in the house, they'd all have their own port, right?
You could use it all the same port. Everybody could be using the same port, but everybody has their own key. So
I see.
When the server is going to receive all the information, it's going to have the key associated with it. So the server you program the server to, Giga will have his own, it'll be like server IP/Giga/stream. And so when the server receives that info, then it'll send it out to Giga Stream. So he's streaming on his own and not somebody else's or whatever. It'll just bounce it. You can use it to encode or to bounce. I use mine to encode and to bounce, kind of thing.
You'll have to show me in the super stream.
Bounce it for me, baby.
It down the road. Bounce it.
Yeah, it is. I completed I just want to fine tune it, but I'm gonna send you a copy of it because you did.
Another great advantage of this setup, Psynaps, and this is one of the reasons I'm actually leaning more towards RTMP is, like you were saying with that music server, because sometimes, I just like to listen to Pandora or something while I'm streaming. Like that's what gets me hyped on my games. And if I'm not playing well, I'm not getting good viewers. So I have to kind of keep myself in a good mental place as well. But I go back to VODs or something and it's like, oh, you were listening to Smash Mouth. Like, of course, that's going to be muted. There's no way you can use any of this footage now. Whereas in this setup, you could have a stream music where maybe it's copyright free, or, you have a lease to it or something, and then you don't run into those same sort of problems. And the quality of rebroadcast, so you have a pure source version maybe being recorded to the hard drive at a much higher bandwidth.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And I have my third computer is doing the music just like you said, and that goes out to the stream. So right now what I'm recording on my screen, there's no actual music going on there. So when I upload to YouTube, I don't have to worry about copyright and stuff like that. And so this lets you split kind of sources the way you want to split them. And
you're taking it this whole fucking dimension. Because I just stream to it. I just stream to it, right? And then it encodes immediately and goes to Twitch. I didn't even realize that you could hop around and like that's crazy. Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of using the power. I'm trying to use the power of this system to improve the quality of my stream and also, improve it for you guys to watch it, and also make it an easy system that just works. And the thing is, you know what? It just works. It's one of those things for me, just like your capture card. I think the capture card would be the same way. Once you set it up and install it, you got to ask yourself the question, does it just work? And if the answer is yes, that means it's a stable system. That means you can just set it and forget it. That's what that's what we all need as streamers. That's going to be the next step in the system. I got it to work on my system where on the encoding machine in Linux, it does the recording there, and then it writes the recording to a network drive. So Linux can access your network drives from in a VM. It's a little bit harder to program, but I'm going to add that to the protocol as well. That means my main computer doesn't have to worry about recording. And again, that's just taking more resources off my gaming computer and putting them onto a server. That's what servers do. They're supposed to just work. And let's let the servers work so we get more FPS in the games.
Yeah, here's another workflow question. How do you control the other computers from your desk?
This one, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I'm showing a picture of what my streaming setup looks like right now on the stream. That I use VNC personally. So that's how I'm able to drag my different computers' windows onto my screen. And VNC is something that I've been using for a long time. TeamViewer is another one, but I don't like TeamViewer. I think TeamViewer is actually the most sophisticated of all of them, but it connects to like the TeamViewer servers. I really don't think I think it's a really bad idea if you want to connect to your own computers within your own network to have to call TeamViewer HQ to be able to do that. That just seems like a security. I don't know. It's something really that hits me on the wrong way about that. Oh, it's most certainly. It's a terrible, terrible thing for an internal network. Now, TeamViewer is great if your mom needs help on her computer. You got to go, or a client. It's also in a administrative type situation where, your clients need help, like support or something like that, and you offer them to just, be there for them and take control of their screen and stuff. That's some mom and pop stuff. But for your own internal network, fuck no. I would never in a million years use TeamViewer for that kind of stuff if they require me to connect to their login to be able to do that.
Because you're doing it over the internet and you're just exposing yourself, right? I mean, even if you...
Right.
Yeah.
Because I use TeamViewer, and I have a big, huge client list because I connect all my friends on there or whatever. But I always tell them, like, hey, whenever you load the app up, the password's different every time. It doesn't start with your computer. Because I want them to know that so they don't think that, like... Because that's the first thing they always ask. Can you get on my computer whenever I have, like, if I install this, can you always get on my computer? And I tell them no. I just looked on VNC's website. A license for VNC is only $30. That's a pretty good deal. And
I think there's some free alternatives as well. Like they have a free version. If you want encryption, you got to pay the $30 one for the encryption and stuff. So there's some options out there, and it's really just to take control of your computer screen. And it's very responsive. When I went to San Francisco the other 2 weeks ago, I was able to log into my home computers and actually do rendering from my home computers while I was working in San Francisco on the video stuff. So it works, over the WAN or just over the local network. Right. And check it out. Give it a try. Set them up on your computers. You just start with the free version. Don't download anything crazy.
Give VNC a try and see how I like it. Because the other option when I designed this workflow was to go with a KVM model. So like an actual hardware solution where I took the same keyboard and mouse and just split it between my two computers. And then I had a switch where I'd go back and forth. And I've already found this to be extremely difficult because it's not a 3.0 KVM. And I have to remember to switch. I have to figure out what monitor I'm on. It gets kind of confusing.
There's a really good plugin for OBS called OBS Remote. And I use that. I went and got like a refurbished Note 4 just to play around on Android and learn it, but it's got
I saw like Co-Carnage or somebody. One thing I sort of just thought of is maybe you are a non-partnered streamer, but you have a lot of personal resources. You can have a two-computer setup and you're running this RTMP or capture version. You might be able to stream at 720p 60 frames for EU or for mobile users or even for your own users just because you don't have a source button. But you might be able to local record 1080p 60 frames and then use that
absolutely.
for your YouTube uploads. So you never really lose. You're helping your audience, but you're not losing any source quality for yourself. So maybe you could kind of talk about the workflow for capturing that locally. Like, should we be using, mechanical 720 hard drives? Is there a certain speed? Should we be doing it on a third computer? What do you think is the ideal situation there?
Well, I think that having a dedicated drive for capture, for one thing, is optimal. Because, you've got the hard drive that your games are on. It might be an SSD. You've got your operating hard drive and stuff. But capture can sometimes be a lot of video data that's just being dumped onto your drive. So I would recommend having a dedicated drive, first of all, if you're going to be doing some capture. That's what I do. I capture to an SSD. And then once the capture is done, I'll take the data from the SSD and I'll move it over at a later time onto a high capacity hard drive. But I'll leave the SSD resources open just so data can be dumped onto it. And I find that there's a lot of stability there. There's increased stability to do that. So in terms of the super streamer computer, if I just go to a more simple version where you've got the gaming computer and then I've got the encoding computer, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. And with the primary computer streaming in 1080, high resolution, 1080, 60 FPS, super high bitrate like I'm doing right now, I get a very clean capture with little to no CPU usage. And it's recording to disk right now. So when I upload to YouTube, you can watch this video on YouTube at a higher quality than you're going to see it on Twitch. It's going to be even better there because I'm using such a high bitrate to capture from the source. And
that is unreal. So you're saying you do it on the gaming computer? Like on the computer?
You can do it. You can capture. No, I'm not doing it on the gaming computer, but you can. All I got to do is press that record button and it'll record at 1080.
Do you have a third computer recording this?
I'm recording it on the encoding computer actually in Linux. Okay. Linux is doing the recording.
Oh man, I gotta set this RT. You're like talking me into it, man. Like I'm so hyped right now.
Yeah, it's the reason. Yeah, the reason that I'm so hyped and that you're so hyped, a lot of us are hyped up about it, is because it solves issues that we want solved. It's just powerful server system that makes a hard task really easy. All the rest of the programs that do this, they take up, CPU and just make it really hard. But Linux just does it like no CPU usage at all to record this. It just takes a little bandwidth. So it also splits up the files and stuff. So that is done in Linux on the encoding computer. It's very nice. I just drag all my files into Premiere or After Effects to do the editing in post. And then on top of that, I can also record the stream output if I want. But I don't record that because that contains the music. That contains, it just doesn't look as good. And it also contains all the chat overlays that you see right above and the alerts. And so I don't upload. I can actually upload to YouTube without the chat, without the overlays, and without all of that stuff.
I hate you right now. Oh, I would kill for that.
Oh. If you go watch my YouTube channel, you can see what the videos look like. All of those were live, but you don't see any chat or anything. You do see the alerts, but I don't actually play those on YouTube because the chat, the alerts, and all that, that's something special for Twitch. I want my Twitch viewers to enjoy that interaction on the stream, and the YouTube viewers will just have to come to Twitch to see that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah.
The RTMP stuff, I will be uploading the highlights of this up to YouTube, so you can see a little bit about the RTMP stuff. But RTMP is basically the protocol that we use to stream. And when we stream, there's a lot of us streaming up to Twitch right now. The stream is live. It's going up there to the streaming servers using RTMP, and then it's getting bounced out. It turns out that RTMP is basically just packets. It's just a network protocol, and you can bounce streams around using no CPU at all. And using my RTMP streaming setup, I basically just built a streaming server that can handle those RTMP streams and just bounce them out however I want. It takes up like no CPU to bounce a stream. Now, if you want to start re-encoding streams, which is also something that happens up in the cloud, that takes some CPU power. And we can use some third-party encoders, Linux encoders, that actually encode better than all the rest of the encoding programs to try to push out some more quality from our streams. So I'll be talking more about the RTMP stuff a lot more in the future. There's two ways you can do it. You can do the capture card dual streaming system, or you can eliminate the capture card completely and use RTMP, an RTMP server. That's what the Psynaps Super Streamer computer is built with. And if you want to see how I have mine set up, I'll send a link in the chat.
I can't wait for that YouTube video, man. Like when you do your like full RTMP YouTube video, it's gonna have so many views, and it's gonna blow people. Like you're gonna have comments in that. There are people like, I didn't even know you could do this. Like this is godlike, and it really is. Like it puts you in a position where you have complete control over your stream, and the ideal control that I think we all, or at least I found.
Sure. Shenmue says, can you use RTMP while streaming from a capture card? Yes, you can combine the two. If you like, I think that would be optimal, in fact, to use a capture card. Anytime you use the capture card setups, I think it gets messy in that you have HDMI cables coming into a second computer, and you have audio cables, which, you got to set levels and stuff for. The RTMP doesn't do any of that. The only cable is your Ethernet cable because it's all network based, and you can dump a huge data stream of RTMP to your internal network. So there's no limits on bandwidth. Something to think about when you're trying to grow.
Oh, that's a good question. Microphones and multiple Twitch and multiple computer setups. So what computer has a microphone for you right now, Psynaps? Is it on your main gaming computer? Is it on your RTMP?
Yeah. Everything, all my webcam and my microphone, video and audio is all on the main gaming computer. And that all is processed here on OBS. And then OBS streams to my encoding computer using RTMP, and the encoding computer encodes it and sends it out to Twitch.
Okay, so that's a huge difference from the capture card method then. So if you're doing capture card, you can do that, and then you would have optical out from your main computer, and then your streaming computer would listen to the optical out.
So basically, you do have to sync, and you do have to do levels and stuff whenever you, just like you mentioned with the capture card, that's going to be kind of difficult, but optical out is great quality audio, and HDMI is basically a raw video feed. So there is definitely something to be said about the quality there. I don't know. I mean, anything that's like that you're recording for the highest quality version would be on the gaming computer, the way that I have my setup, because the bit rate here is very high from the gaming computer. Even if you had a dual streaming computer with a capture card, I think you still would take advantage of the same thing. You have a lot of bandwidth. You can set up your settings very, very high. You can put your settings up high on your gaming computer because your encoding computer is doing all the work for Twitch. So just because you're recording at a very high bit rate, that doesn't mean, keep in mind, that doesn't mean that you take up more CPU. Sometimes making your bit rate go up makes your CPU usage go down, because you can use those. Remember, you can use NVEC encoding, which works really, really well at high bit rates, and that uses your GPU. Doesn't use your GPU. It uses a built-in NVEC chip that's on your GPU for dedicated encoding. That uses very little CPU, and you can bump up the stream presets from very fast to super fast or ultra fast, and those presets don't use up very much CPU. And they work very well at higher bit rates. So bit rate goes up. Sometimes CPU can actually go down, and higher bit rates are great for those highlights or recording to disk, or just recording the entire stream. I record the whole thing. I probably generate anywhere from 30 to 50 gigabytes per stream.
Wow. Jesus. I don't know if I can, that's a lot, man. I don't know if I can commit that much.
Right. It's a lot, but after I use them, if I use them, then I'll go and delete, I'll render out a video, upload it to YouTube, and then I'll just delete all the original files, and just maybe I'll save the compressed file for a little while. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you found this video useful, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and let me know in the comments what you think. For more information on configuring your stream, be sure to check the description for a link. Good luck and have fun.